Hello! Welcome back to another exciting episode of MegStory. If you're enjoying what you're watching, we kindly ask you to show your support by liking the video, subscribing to our channel, and don't forget to hit the notification bell to stay updated with our latest content. Wife of 12 years cheated and then moved out. My wife of 12 years started an affair with a colleague less than a year after our child was born. I caught them chatting by pure accident. He confronted her and was blamed that it was my fault, since I didn't pay her any attention since the child came. It's not that I have not paid attention. I noticed she was emotional, stressed, and burdened by things around her and at work. So I stopped asking things from her, like being intimate or helping around the child or house. I shouldered it all so she could rest, since I thought that was what she needed. Knowing what I know now, she was probably looking for a way to break up and spend more time with App. She said she would give us a chance and stop talking with him. I believed her, and about a year went until she said no, I can't anymore. I knew she was still talking with App, found messages, etc. So she looked for an apartment and found one and moved out August last year. I helped her move, but she still spent a lot of time with me and our child until she decided in January of this year to move for real into her apartment. She said she needed to do this to find herself and to figure out what she wanted in life. I have read enough stories here to know what that means. Don't have any real proof, but I am very certain what she has been doing. I decided to make myself busy with other things, working out and attending work events, etc., to try to focus on myself. However, I missed our family regardless during all this time. I still do. But I would never admit that to her. I told my wife in the beginning, I will never come asking you for anything, and it all comes down to you if you want to commit to our family and solve this. But by the time that happens, there is no guarantee that I'm interested in fixing it. Time goes by and we sometimes on weekends do something together with our child. I get vibes that she is regretting and wants to fix things, but she never admits to it, but somehow I get the feeling it will be fine. Until last week when I, again by mistake, saw that she is chatting with App and declaring I love you to each other. That's when I decided enough already. I talked with her that evening and said I won't put up with this anymore. You are married and have a boyfriend at the same time. Let's just sign the divorce papers and be over with it. After a lot of talk and crying from her side, she signed it. I asked her no communications unless it's regarding our child. It's been barely a week since we signed the papers, but she writes to me short sentences about our child now and then. I am devastated since I probably had built up the expectations we would reconcile. But here we are. I am sad and down for the most part. I try to occupy my mind to not think, but it's just so hard. I want my family, but I hate what she has become and done to us. Sorry for bad formatting, wrote on the phone. Now for the next story. My gut feeling says my wife has cheated. She says it's all in my head and that I'm insecure. I've 31 been lurking around on here for a week, mainly to gain comparisons with my situation and others. Obviously, I've seen a lot of comparisons, so I'll try and keep this as short as possible. Married for 10 years, together for 14, and have a 9-year-old son. I love my wife with all my heart, and she says the same. She'll do anything for me and is the most loving person I've met. Sex is usually always good, so no complaints there. She's dealt with a lot of crap from me due to mental health struggles over the years, but she has always been there for me. Here's the problem. In October 2022, I went through a bad patch due to external events which caused me to go into a brief spell of depression. This understandably wore her down and we struggled. Shortly after that period, I started to get a deep feeling of dread that something wasn't quite right between us. My gut was trying to tell me something. This feeling only grew stronger throughout November. I didn't confront her about anything. I just observed. There was a distance that wasn't there before. Fast forward to December. She had her Xmas party after work and stayed in a hotel as she was working the next day too, which was all planned, so no issues there. She came home around 6 p.m. the next day, and when she walked into the house, I looked at her and she smiled, but at that moment it was like something hit me in the stomach at 100 myth and knocked me down. I could almost see it in her. She looked different, had a different vibe altogether, and it was so strongly that I felt like I knew something had happened. She came back downstairs after getting changed and sat on the sofa next to me. I felt so much rage that night I could barely contain it. But I did. We went to bed, and as we'd had zero trust issues in the past, I foolishly believed she would tell me when I asked, "Is there anything you want to tell me?" She replied in a soft, higher pitch than usual no. After a few goes, I gave up with questions. Oddly, we then had the best sex we had in long time, but the suspicions and gut feeling remained, with zero proof. To cut long stories short, throughout December and the first part of Jan 2023, I directly asked her if she had cheated in any way, shape, or form, and that I only wanted to know so we can move past it. Of course, I could never forgive this, but just wanted the truth. She repeatedly denied and said she is going to call the crisis team or doctors as I'm heading into psychosis, as I'm delusional and paranoid, insecure, because she's lost a lot of weight. She wanted to get my mother involved to tell her I'm not well, which pissed me off. Then the crying would happen and I'd feel bad and say sorry. This was a repeating cycle until mid-January. In the end, I had no proof, so I tried to let it go. The gut feeling never went away. It got stronger and weaker at times, but always there. Fast forward to now, I have walked out. 3 weeks ago, I found out she had changed her passcode on her phone. I asked if I could use it for Apple Pay as I didn't have mine set up for it. I could tell straight away she didn't want to give it to me. I asked if her PIN was still her DOB. B always has been. She says no and sort of stalls trying to tell me the new one. I cut her off and said it doesn't matter, just leave it. She's guarded with her phone when typing to someone. Unless it's her family, then she has no problems showing her screen, but she even goes as far as changing her whole seating position on the sofa so as she can carefully guard the screen while she types whatever she's typing. 3 nights ago, I was looking on Reddit, and someone mentioned the app Keepsafe, so I looked it up and immediately recognized it as something I've seen on her phone back in December. I didn't know what it was back then, but I knew when I seen it on the App Store and learned what it was used for. I asked her if she'd ever heard of it, and sheepishly replies, "No, don't think so." I said, "Are you sure? Because I know you've had that app on your phone before." And she has denied and denied until she's blue in the face. Since then, it's back to the I would never do anything to break up this family. It's all on you. You have no proof. You're delusional. You're paranoid. I'm gonna call the crisis team because you're not well. I've forgotten a lot of what she said, but I just laughed and said, "Do not gaslight me." She go from hysterical crying to outright insults regarding my mental health in a split second. Seriously, however, I am heartbroken, sleeping in my car tonight, and I just can't help but love her. Is she right? Am I crazy and paranoid? Edit, this was my first time posting on here, so I didn't expect the kind of response you all gave, so thank you for all of inputs. Just read a couple of things and wanted to clarify that I've never and never will be violent against my wife. I've had a history of depression, low mood, etc., not psychosis or illusions. I'm not psychotic now, but I would say that. However, I am questioning my own reality based on her response to me. If she is completely innocent, then I'm an idiot and I've probably ruined our marriage anyway. She said she changed her passcode in December, and I only found that out a few weeks ago as I'm not one to go through someone's phone. If that makes me weak or stupid or both, then so be it. I've never experienced this before, therefore, after 14 years of being open with each other. I naively thought she'd tell me right away. Stupid, I know. She's changing. She even said last week that she thinks she's having an early midlife crisis. At 30? She wants to go to the gym now. Great, go for it. She's buying new cloth to wear. Great, go for it if that makes you feel good. Goes on sunbeds now too. She even bought one of those daft vape pens for the first time the other day. She doesn't smoke and said she doesn't know why she got it, because it goes against what she believes in. Eh? How can you begin to make sense of that? I've not been the greatest husband, just like most of us here. I have a lot of flaws and I'm very aware of them, but I have always supported her in whatever she wanted to do in life. Comment 1. As a woman with absolutely nothing to hide and with a history of being cheated on by an ex, and married to a man who also has a history of being cheated on by an ex. I have handed over my phone to my husband with zero hesitation and would do so again, and our relationship is just as fantastic as ever. Granted, as far as I can tell, he may never have actually looked at my phone. However, he's perfectly welcome to look at it behind my back without me even knowing about it, so it's also possible he looked at it in great detail. I gave him the information he needed so he can look through it when I'm not around if he wants to, and I don't care enough about it to even bother to verify what, if anything, he bothered to look at. It is true that some spouses are irrationally controlling and would use the opportunity to look through a phone to dig for any lone incident from a decade ago that might have been 0.1 objectionable, and then hold it over your head forever, and phone sharing could be problematic under those circumstances. But you should know whether your own spouse is like that or not. Since Ope's wife had historically always shared her password and PIN with him, it doesn't sound like he had a history of being like that. Most reasonable people, when offered a chance to look through their partner's phone to assure them of faithfulness, are going to do the absolute bare minimum of digging they need to do to feel reassured. We don't typically want to dig through everything our partner has ever written to anyone ever, because we don't want to risk accidentally creating new problems by seeing things that we legitimately had no business seeing. For me, just verifying that the password I have still unlocks my husband's phone and computer is plenty of reassurance all by itself, and I've never needed more than that. I think my husband probably feels similarly. In any case, it seems to me that the only point at which looking through a partner's phone genuinely becomes a problem is if someone does dig up something that was never really their business anyway and then holds it over their partner's head, like saying, "How dare you have loved this other person before you met me?" Or "How dare you have said something vaguely critical of me to a platonic friend once?" As long as nothing on my phone is being nitpicked about and held against me, I trust that everything is fine, and it doesn't concern me to wonder how much of it my husband may or may not have looked at. Comment 2. This paranoia fits quite well with depression and other mental health issues. You require counseling at the very least. She clearly recognizes your moods when You suffer from intrusive thoughts that can be addressed with cognitive behavioral therapy. It's classic. You have absolutely no proof of anything yet you cannot stop thinking about her cheating. When she gives you an answer you don't agree with, you cry about gaslighting. If there is talk about crisis intervention teams, you clearly have a history of serious problems. What I found concerning is your statement about suppressing your rage. Not only are you delusional, but you are ready to snap and become violent. Worse yet, you come to this group to seek validation in an echo chamber. I have experienced actual cheating, and there are many stories in this sub that are tales of brutal betrayal. Your story is not one of them. Please go to therapy before you snap due to paranoia and hurt your wife and maybe others. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, hit like. If you would like to see more, feel free to subscribe.